want to remind the audience to please not talk out loud. Please do not applaud. You're just wasting time.
Aye, aye, Admiral Butthead.
So don't mess with me.
I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN.
I pray for the president all the time.
Ugh, back to the lock with you, Nessie.
I've now been in 57 states.
He's what we designate as the crummy moronic type.
We didn't crawl out from under no rocks. We didn't have no tails. We didn't come from monkeys, you atheistic pinko meathead.
Donald Trump no longer has the capacity to break my heart.
I'm not pissed. You've seen me pissed. This is way, way beyond pissed.
Now it's a party!
Don't try to be funny, will you, meathead?
Welcome, brother. Here we are once again. I'm just checking to make sure our show is going well. It seems like it is on the outside world. How we doing?
Namaset from 2021.
Yes. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
It really is kind of amazing. Where's the time go? We're 20 years in to the next millennium. 20 years. We're 2 decades in.
Yeah, not only that, John, we have been working as a team for one of our Patriot organizations for 17 years now, 16 years. This is our 17th year. What is it? What year?
I don't know. We keep trying to figure out exactly when we started this.
Yes. But I do think that it's been a long time. So tonight's topics are: we're going to talk about the book that we just released. We're going to talk about, I have a game for you. We're going to be talking about January 6th, of course, what's going to happen there. We're going to come back to the culture, always a struggle fighting for our culture against the leftist media mafia. And also, we're going to be talking finally about Ted Cruz's commission and predictions for January 20th and what's going to happen. So stick with us, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a good, heartful, solid show. Let me see if I can get us started here, brother, with our first piece of fun. Our book that is released, it actually some starts and stops, but it is out. It's Take Back the Star campaign that we talked about, 5 years ago, 4.5 years ago now. We had talked about wanting to do something like this to take back, and in essence, what it is, we see the failed states of the blue states, and we see how they have failed because they failed the self-government experiment. And they need to lose their star on the flag. That's the take the star back, take it off of Old Glory, and they need to be reverted back to territories. And in essence, we make the case, we do the historical background, we do the legal background, we talk about how the individual parts of a state can break apart. And it actually has happened historically. It has happened at least 5 times in the history of the United States where a state has been broken into other pieces and where states have lost their star and been reverted back to territory status. And so you can read more about that in the book. It's on Amazon, it's Kindle, and it's also a paperback. So we encourage all of you to get out there. And hey, brother, do you want to mention anything about, because we had talked a little bit about courts.
I want to thank you for the opportunity of going down to Florida to help work on this book. And I also want to thank you for doing all the work for it.
Yeah, you did. What my brother is referring to is when we were down in Florida to do a thing for my daughter. We had some time where we were sitting around and we started
No. It was an author vacation.
we had time to sit around, and we started piecing together the pieces of it. That's when we started really get into the research and dig into the pieces and connecting the dots. And that's what you see in front of you is the result of that moment. And some other stuff where we started working on.
And I do like to point out, Mark Stein had, when he was filling in for Rush Limbaugh on Thursday, had another one of his amazing shows where he basically said, enough with holding the line crap in Georgia. Yeah, we're going to hold the line in Georgia, blah, 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 bull crap. But mic problem. But where does that get us? That gets us losing and losing and losing. Holding the line gets us nowhere. So he then mentioned something that's always been close to our heart. It's like, well, when are we going to go on the offensive? When are we going to seize the enemy's territory?
That's
I don't want to,
exactly
and Mark,
it.
like you said, I don't want to hear any more of this holding the line crap. I want to know. I don't want to hear how you held the line, like Mitch McConnell, like that is now back on the creep list. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear about what you did to seize enemy territory in the culture,
Exactly.
in the which you're going to talk about a little bit later, and with this politically. Listen, either these blue states are destroyed or we're just going to have to occupy them. There is no other solution. This, you can run, you can hide. You can go to Missouri, the great state of Missouri, the greatest state in the center of the country. All the rivers converge there, all the communications converge there. It's truly the center of the country. And yet, a red state still has St. Louis and Kim Gardner and the persecution of the McCloskeys for just asserting their Second Amendment rights. So you can run from this, but you can't hide from it. So why run? Why don't we go on the offense?
We've drawn the line. With this book, this draws the line, and it shows you, the ordinary, average, everyday citizen, how you can fight back against it and start taking back your state. Even a state like I'm in, where it's New Jersey, there is a possibility for you to force this action, to break up the state, or even just put it back into territory status till it reorganizes into a proper model that's constitutional. Because let's be honest, our states there's a number of our blue states that are not just constitutional anymore. They're not protecting their citizens constitutionally. And, we get into that in all the book, and we talk about the finer details. So that
Wait a minute.
Yes.
One more thing. I want to say this about our particular belief in how we handle things in the future. Why what we've been doing for the last 20 some years, whatever it was. I really wish we could come up with a date when this all started. Yeah. but whatever it started, we've always had a particular attitude, and it's Patton's attitude. At one point, he was handed the Third Army. And that idiot Eisenhower, his general, told him, and this is after Normandy, when he was ready to unleash and wipe out the 7th German Army and take back France, and unleash the greatest fighting force ever known to mankind, the Third Army. Right before that, they told him to cut back towards the west, to go to Brest and take care of the rear. So they called him up. He said, well, wait a minute, because they heard different reports about which way he was going. And they wanted to know why he wasn't attacking to the west, back towards the channel. And he goes, oh, I am attacking towards the west. I'm also attacking to the north, to the south, to the east. I'm attacking in all directions. Exactly. And that's our mentality. And that's what we have to have going forward. So go ahead.
Yeah. So now we have I put together a little game because of all the shenanigans that we see going on in the public eye with the leftists and their the courts and how the courts have failed us. I put together a little bit of a game for us to play, brother. So I hope you can. I'll ask you the question. You can answer it. If you get the right answer, it'll be 1 more point. And if you get enough points, which is a number that I haven't determined yet, if you get enough points, I figure I play this like the left does anyway. You then can get the ultimate award, which is a no prize. All right. So here's your first question, the trivia game. A Republican has a legitimate case of election fraud. He takes it to a court. What is the outcome?
Is it for me? Can I ask a question? Is he a Democrat or a Republican?
A Republican. It says a Republican has a legitimate case of election fraud.
Can I phone a bro?
No, there's no phone a bro.
What should I say? All right. He loses.
No standing. No point.
No standing. No standing. Well, wait a minute. Depends on when he files. If he files too early, they'll say it's moot and he has no standing. If he files after the election, they'll say it's laches, meaning he's waited too long and he has no standing. So basically, I guess you're right. It's no standing.
Half a point. I'll give you half a point. How about that? 0.5. Okay, 1,000+ affidavits of election fraud goes to the media. What is the outcome?
It depends. Is he a Republican or Democrat?
No, it's 1,000 affidavits. It's a Republican.
Oh, then can I phone a bro now?
No.
What am I supposed to say?
What's the outcome?
Obviously,
What do you think the
obviously
outcome
he
is?
loses.
No evidence.
No evidence.
No points.
Oh, okay. I'm not doing good in this.
You bleach bit if you're a Democrat, and you bleach bit your server, deleting and destroying evidence. What is the outcome when the FBI investigates?
Strongly worded letter.
I'll give you half a point on that. I had no problem, no jail.
No prosecution.
I had no problem, no jail. Okay. Now, an ordinary citizen forgets to file a document with the IRS or forgets a key point in a conversation with an FBI agent. What's the outcome?
Is he a Republican?
He is an ordinary citizen, a Republican.
Well, then he goes to jail for 5 to 10 years. He loses all his fortune. Loses his house. His reputation. He's slandered by the media constantly forever.
I'm going to give you two points because you
Yes.
did too much of that. Go to jail. Do not collect $200. 2 points. All right. A state takes a case to the Supreme Court about election fraud from another state, and it disenfranchises its own citizens. What's the outcome?
The federal Supreme Court recognizes that there's been a wrong done here, steps up and does their constitutional duty, and
taking away a point.
What?
Taking away a point.
That could
No
never happen.
standing. No standing.
Oh, no standing again?
Come on, John. This is the
No
real
standing
world. We're not
again?
talking about John. We're not talking about following the law. We're not talking about following the Constitution. What are you thinking? We're talking about the way it really is in the world we live in. A Republican or an ordinary citizen accused of breaking the law. What is the outcome?
He spends 5 to 10 years in jail. He has his house taken from him, all the money in his pension taken from him, and then he gets slandered by the media for the rest of his adult life.
I'm going to give you 3/4 of a point on that one because you missed the biggest part of it, which is the SWAT team comes in,
and molest your wife.
And molest your wife and threatens to
in a
kill
nightgown.
you.
Yeah, you're right.
Even though you're a 70-plus-year-old man,
right? You're right. I forgot that.
No opportunity to defend himself and wasn't doing any problems.
Operating a life while Republican. Operating a wife while Republican.
Yes.
Suspicious Republican on a bike.
All right.
Just shout out to somebody I know.
We're going to get to that. A wealthy, well-connected drug user is videoed using heavy drugs and sharing those drugs. The media does, or the police and media and the government does.
Obviously, they prosecute that individual because of the war on drugs.
Taking
the
away
fact that millions of people are in jail.
Point right there.
Millions of people, James, don't tell me this is. Listen, millions of people are in jail and on probation, or have been on jail and probation for the illicit use of drugs. Don't tell me there's a video of an important person. Don't tell me that. What are you smoking over there?
Hunter Biden.
What?
The infamous Hunter Biden. He is, John, in fact, infamous. He is infamous because he's a drug user who got away with using the drugs, that nothing done to him, and the media covered it up. All right. Black man carrying a gun in a high crime area on his way to work a legitimate job. John, what is the outcome?
5 to 10 years. He loses his life and gets slandered for the rest of
Stopped and detained and arrested for protecting himself. I'm going to give you 2 points for that one. All right. You're rolling, brother. You're rolling. Democrat doesn't file taxes for years. What's the outcome?
He's given more money. Rewarded. Pat back on the back.
I got to give you a point for that.
Lionize him as the greatest, the greatest since Obama.
I got to give you a point because I had allowed to pay back, no jail time, no consequence. But I like your answer better. All right. A vice president threatens to pull money if there is not a quid pro quo for his son's company. The media does?
Impeach him. Demand impeachment.
No, they ignore it, John. They ignore it. I'm taking away another point.
Oh, man. I wish I could get my news story straight.
All right. So a Democratic candidate, this is the last one. Democratic candidate pays for a fake dossier about a Republican opponent, gives it to the FBI, the media, and the deep state do what?
They sit on it because they don't want it to interfere in an election.
No, they resist with fake news, smear and slander President Trump, John. I take it away. You know what? You get no prize.
Where have I been for the last 4 years? How have I not been paying attention to this?
I don't know. All right, that's our game of the day. I will now turn over my talking duties to you, and you can tell us about January 6th.
January 6th is coming up. January 6th is when the Electoral College votes are being read to the Congress. Okay, now the procedure works like this. There's a big rally down in Washington D.C. The mayor of Washington D.C., a particular creep, Aristo creep, has decided they're going to close all gas stations and fooderies so that the poor people down there exercising their First Amendment right. So she's interfering with their exercise of the First Amendment right. Somebody needs to sue her on that. But anyway, they're going to have a big rally on January 6th to put pressure on what's going on in Congress. Now, the procedure in Congress works like this: the electors have already voted, meaning that the electors from the Democrats and the Republican states that were uncontested have already put forward their votes that are going to be read on that day, January 6th. Now, there's 6 states, I believe, where legislatures have set a counter slate of electors' votes, and I think one more where the governor did it, the 7th state. But so there are contending elector seats. But the official document will come to Mike Pence, the vice president, and then who will read it to both chambers. And so both chambers, both the House and the Senate, are going to be there, just like they do for the yearly State of the Nation address by the president. And so at that time, the procedure goes: the vice president will read the vote, and then it can be challenged. It can be challenged by at least, you have to have 1 congressman and 1 senator, and then they would go and they would the houses would separate, and then they would debate in the Senate and they would debate in the House, and they would come back after the 2 hours. Now, it could be that they fight each vote, or they could fight all the votes together. For example, Pennsylvania has 20 votes. They could fight them once in the 1 2-hour battle and then come back and then vote on it. Or they could do each vote, in which case there's 40. That would be 40 hours and a whole week. And that's important for a reason. One reason is you can tell which way they're trying to slow roll us. If they do it the right way, which is say, listen, I'm going to vote I'm going to fight each one of these elector votes, then you're getting the idea that there is significant congressional pressure to extend it out, to force the contingent elections, which I'll get to in a second because I'm still doing the procedure. But if not, then they could potentially at least go through those 6, 7 states which are challenged in both of the chambers, and then come back, and then they would vote on whether to accept or not accept those elector votes. Now, if it say all the Republicans vote and they hold the Senate, because the Senate is held by then, and that the House is goes their way, then you would have, as it stands right now, say the Republicans did a miracle and they all stuck together, but I'll get to that in a second. Then you'd have 1 vote from the House for it and 1 side for the Senate against it. So in my mind, it does not sit. Now, there's some nonsense about a statute that says then they can revert back to the state governor and see who his certification. But that's nonsense. That's extra constitutional. That's a statute. It doesn't outrank the Constitution. They have to get those votes to sit then. And if they don't sit then those, in the case of Pennsylvania, 20 seats gets knocked off. Now, this has been a week of fast news. It's been a week of fast news about how this is going to go. Okay, so then to finish on the procedure, then the ultimate backstop of the Constitution, the ultimate end stop, is the contingent election, where it goes by House delegates, not then the Senate, not then it's in the House, but it's by the state delegates, in which case the Republicans have a 26 to 22 advantage, and then Trump and Pence become president. That's the ultimate backstop and the ultimate way that Trump could actually win. But it's the shenanigans that can go beforehand. Like at the very end, you're going to talk about the commission, Cruz's commission. That's at the end. You're going to talk about that. There's a myriad of ways that can get there. But to catch up on the news for our listeners, so originally Mo Brooks from Alabama was a great legislature in the House, came up and said, I'm going to challenge it. And then 100, to their credit, now it's up to 140 House members are going to challenge the election on one side. Well, no senator came forward. And then good old Mitt said, this is a bad idea. He's already jumped ship. The rat whose wife is sitting on the Chinese bank. The rat is jumped ship. The turtle, I call him the turtle, but we should call him the turtle rat. Jump ship and said this is a bad idea. The rhino rat this is a bad idea. And of course, Holly, looking for, he's a young guy looking for. I mean, we're not the best fan of Holly because he's got some questionable gun issues, and he's another one of these guys who's never done anything in his life except go to school. He came out, to his credit, and said, I'm going to challenge it. And then a particular contemptible little pissant named Ben Sass, another one of these. He's a Harvard guy. He's actually a doctor in history.
He's a loser, John.
Right. A Harvard guy, a Yale guy, and an Oxford guy. I mean, he's just a trifecta of idiot. This guy comes out with this big statement going, this is wrong. I'm against it, because he's a Republican. And so he comes out and says against it. And I've talked to all my colleagues, and everybody else agrees that it's now there's 2 points about this. Everybody else agrees that there was no case here and that there was fraud because there was no fraud here because all the courts kicked it out. Now, the key point whenever you're told is this, the bottom line is this: there have been no evidentiary hearings, period. No evidence. There's zero evidence. Zero evidence. Now they keep trying to turn us against us, saying, "Oh, there is no evidence." No. Let's have the hearing. Let's have the documents. Let's go see the ballots. If you say these ballots are not fake, well, then it's easy to prove. They can go down to the nano level to determine whether these ballots are true or not. It's a big thing because, of course, of fraud for money, and for stopping both privately banks and the federal government and state governments too they can take a piece of paper that's allegedly $1 or anything or ballot, and they can see the nano levels. They can see the number of times it's been folded. They can see whether, as the one expert said, whether the guy who handled it was a smoker or not. It's to that level degree of extent. So if there's nothing to hide here, well, let's have all the ballots. Problem is, in states like Arizona, they are now not, the legislature sent a subpoena. The Arizona's legislature sent a subpoena to the commission, electoral commission, to get the evidence. And they're refusing. So they're refusing to give all of the evidence. So let's have the hearing. Now, then the great, and we're going to call him, I mean, I have to give him credit. He's really standing up. Our guy, Ted Cruz, gets apparently he has been talking to a bunch of the senators. So I guess Sass was talking to all the Democrats, or he's just an idiot because he comes out and now there are 10 senators.
John, I have to interrupt you because my response to Sass is going through life an idiot. There's just no way to go through life as an idiot. Right, but I just want to also interrupt you. I just want to point up on the screen. If you notice, the Senator Cruz was threatened with sedition, to be arrested for crimes of sedition and treason because of he's calling for he's coming in and doing all this. This act of talking to the other senators, this act of trying to challenge the election. The Democrats are calling for his arrest for sedition and treason.
Of course. So why do these fools think this is going to go over? Because if they get away with this and making charges like that, they're going to keep doing it until using the power of the deep state against the people of America until you decide that you are going to go to your church and they arrest you for that. To decide you're going to raise your kids and they arrest you for that.
They're already arresting you for
So what do you have to lose, Ben Sass and company? Why don't you just stand up and do the right thing? Now, the thing is this. I'm going to start calling him our man Cruz because I'm telling you, I've watched, Sidney is a great lawyer. There are a lot of great lawyers out there, but Ted Cruz is one of the best cross-examiners and trial lawyers I've ever seen. He is really, really good. Now, this is a big case for him to handle. It's a very complex, moving thing. We don't have any evidence. We don't have a lot of the evidence. So he was apparently, the president called him to when the Texas case was filed and when the Pennsylvania case filed on the president's behalf up to the Supreme Court, that was put off to January 22 so they can slow Ross. The president asked him to be lead counsel, and he would be, because he's had like 10 cases, and he's won 5 out of 5 or 6 of them out of that in front of the Supreme Court. But besides that, he is a great lawyer. So now, what does he have to work with? Well, each one of these, when the roll call goes off for Arizona, he can, he's going to be the one leading all the problems with Arizona. The number one problem being that, listen, they're not giving up the evidence. Number two problem is listen, they play this game. This is the game that they've been slow rolling the election. First, they would only let them look at 100 votes. Then they when they found out that 3% of them could have were what happened in Arizona. One of the things that happened in Arizona is when they voting they got misfiled, or because it was wrinkled and didn't get spit up by the machine. An elector would look at it, a so-called judge would look at it, and if they found out in the first 100 batch of they found 3 errors that hurt Trump. And so then in the 1500, they said, oh, there wasn't enough because it slipped down to 1%. That's not the way you do statistics. Hey, and it was a real simple solution. Get them all. Why can't you have them all? So he could just go through. And the fact that the Arizona election isn't giving the state legislature, from that, you should never accept those Arizona votes. And it goes that way for Georgia. Listen, he should start with Georgia, because there is no excuse for
he'll have to do it alphabetically. It's going to be alphabetically.
Right.
So the first one's going to be Arizona.
There is no excuse. Well, the circumstantial evidence is this: all these states, as Sydney says, you never stop presidential elections. The only time it's ever happened was in one county down in 2000, which was the hanging Chad one. Every other presidential election, every other single time, you count it until it's all done. This is the only one. So it's not suspicious. It's collusion, your favorite word, right? Collusion, when these 7 battleground states stop because now they know how many they have to steal, and then in the middle of the night, produce when nobody else is watching, produce the Biden win. So when Pennsylvania gets and it's 600,000 votes versus, like, I forget, it's like 6,000 or something for Trump, something like that, something like 16,000, like some impossible 96% vote for Biden. There is no jurisdiction where Biden wins 96%. Nowhere, not even in New York. Are you kidding me? Not even in California. That's nonsense. So I mean, he could go, and so you're gonna have a great lawyer. The only problem being is there's not a lot of the evidence, because back to my original point is again, there's been 0 evidentiary hearings. All this is judges refusing to do their job because they can do it with impunity. As we said before, the judiciary is the deepest part of the deep state. They are the deep state, and it's the imperial judiciary. They get to do what they want and get away with it.
We cover that in the book that's discussed in the book about how they're unconstitutional. The courts have abandoned us constitutionally.
Well, okay, so let me finish with the news. So, of course, Cruz comes up with this, and Paul Ryan steps up and says, oh, this is horrible for Republicans. And then he said it's horrible for conservatives. I nearly fell out of my chair. And maybe this is all for a really good reason. The number one problem Trump has had in the last 4 years, our candidate, our guy, Trump has had, is who? Who's the number one problem?
The rhinos.
My moron, Paul Ryan. Right?
And let me define rhinos. I'll give you by doing the example. There's Paul Ryan, there's Mitch McConnell, there's Ben Sasse. And John, you had said to me before that Ben Sasse was going at this as somebody who was trying to what was it you said that it was he's trying
to win the party for 2024.
Right.
He thinks he's going to be the Republican. The moderate.
And I said to you, I think you're giving this man way too much credit, John. You're actually giving him the idea that there's some kind of honor in this, and the fact that he's saving the party for 2024. John, he's not doing. He's no different than these people like John McCain, Mitt Romney, all these self-aggrandizing bullies that want to get up in front of the camera. All they want to be is in front of the camera, and they want to be, oh, look at me, I'm going to be their favorable people when it comes to the media. They want to be the media's like go-to person. So they want the attention from all these leftist media. So of course they don't mind who they step on their way to get that. They don't mind who they crush, whether it's constitutional or not. You give them way too much credit because all they are is me. They just want themselves to be noticed by the media. They don't want to speak the truth. Pierre Delacour and his buddy Ben Sass, John, these people are dirty. Arlen Specter, they are all they want to do is, if there's a hint about an election, it's only their own they care about. They don't care about who's president in 2024. They don't care as long as they are in front of the cameras and making their cheddar, John. They just want to make their cheddar.
Well, good old Paul Ryan's married a billionaire, so he doesn't need any, right? So
he doesn't need cheddar, but he wants the attention, brother. He wants the attention from the media.
There's two things.
They're all looking for the Christiana Ampor interview. That's all they're looking for, brother. Christiana Ampor interview, or what's the other George Stephanopoulos? Yeah, that clown.
They want to be lollipop. Well, there's a couple things about good old. So Paul Ryan comes out and makes this statement, and now there is the usual suspects have now 4 senators, of course, the squishes and a new squish apparently have now stepped up afterwards and said, "Oh, this is wrong. There was no fraud in the election." So it doesn't look like the Republicans have the vote yet. However, that's before the best trial attorney I've seen in a long time gets up and starts talking. And Cruz is amazing. And so there is going to be a fight. And God bless those 140 congressmen who know that they're up in 2 years. Creeps like Sass, he just won his election. He can do it from impunity, and so can the transgender Mitt Romney. But now here's the thing: who's going to win? Whose plan is this anyway, right? This is God's plan. And if God determines that the best thing for now is for us to take names of these creeps who are jumping ship now as the rats, if God's plan is to out these rats now, then that's okay. Then that's God's plan. Think about it. The Paul Ryans and the Mitt Romneys, why are they so bitter? Well, think about it. God is, it's like, I can understand the anxiety of people. I mean, I have people I call my friend that, they wanted to say they're going to go back to drinking because of this election. But hey, and the thing is because, as the Bishop Sheen, it says, we're so powerless against all of the forces that are arrayed against us. And we forget, though, something the great Joel Osteen says, right? You and God are a majority, right? Yeah. You and God are a majority. So ultimately, I firmly believe that's all in God's plans. But think about this, though. So Paul Ryan and that idiot Pierre Delacour, right? So think of that. They're sitting there going, oh, okay, I guess, God decided that having a particularly the dumbest guy to ever be president, who already blew 4 years, who is overstayed a visa, a visa for school, and isn't even an American, who hates America, is better for the country of the United States of America for the next 4 years than Paul Delacour, or my pet bat boy, Paul Ryan. And that's a tough thing to live with, isn't it? That's the subconscious, that must be going on in those two fools' heads to explain what. But who knows? Once the finest lawyers in this country today starts making the argument, it's going to happen now. A House of Representative guy and a senator is going to stand up. So at least for the state of Arizona, there's going to be a 2-hour battle in both of these houses, and both the Senate, and we're going to see it. And we're going to see.
You off, brother. We got to.
Oh yes.
Get into it.
All right. Well, we're going to come back to the commission later, but go ahead. Do your thing.
So we're going to switch gears a little bit, but it's still all connected We have a culture war. We've known that we've been in a culture war for decades. We've talked about it several dozen times over the last 20 years. We've had these conversations. We've reported on where they're going, but I'm making the case tonight that the media and the leftists and the media mafia has gone as far as they can, and they are starting to feel the pain. 3 case studies that we have tonight, brother. First case study is Cobra Kai. It's a show that was on YouTube and was bought by by Netflix, the Obama channel. And then the next case is Wonder Woman 1984. And the last case is Stargirl. But the general background, obviously, this is comics. And if it was just about comics, it wouldn't be anything worthwhile in the larger sense. But these are all TV shows. They're culturally part of the drama that we see when we hear the media and the left trying to push their narrative of hate America and America last. When they push that agenda, all they're doing is, they're pushing away their consumers. So what's been going on in comics is comic market is destroyed. It's absolutely dead. It's not on life support. It is dead. The DC and Marvel have sufficiently killed their industry, and not because of COVID, brother. They have done it because they're woke-topians. They're part of the woke nut jobs that we see on the left, where every single step that they take is an attempt to impact and hurt or damage the culture so that it falls into their favor. So here's the example. They've made several comics or we'll just start with the most obvious, Captain Marvel, where they shoehorned her in. They made her part of the MCU, and they violated a whole bunch of canon and the way the comics is, but all it was just trying to appeal to a market. And when the fans said this movie sucks, they didn't turn around and say, well, what we would do, what normal people would do is, why does somebody say this is suck? No, they said, no, it doesn't suck. You suck. The fans are the ones who suck. You are the problem, not Miss Marvel or Captain Marvel, not the woke message that she's pushing. It's the fans that are the problem. And it completely misses the simple, and this is important. I mean, the fans of comic books and the movies and stuff, they're not people who are looking for some kind of message. They want to see good comic book stories, the ones that you grew up on, the ones that you read. And instead of giving us that, they gender swap these characters. They make them be, they change their gender, but they also change their race. It's delegitimizing the character. And this is why, because, and my point has always been, if you're a comic book writer or a comic book artist and you can't come up with a storyline and a new character that fits whatever gender you want, whatever race you want, if you can't do that, and instead you got to go in there and make Batman black, or make Batman a lesbian, the Batwoman lesbian. If you need to do all that, if you need to do that, then you are unimaginative. You are disrespecting the comic book industry, but you're also, more importantly, disrespecting that race or gender or whatever orientation. You're disrespecting all of it, because you are showing us that you can't be smart enough. You can't develop a character, and instead of stealing one character, imagine if. Stealing one character, what they do is they take it and they turn it into some kind of other gender. They're telling us that they're unoriginal. So that's, I want to point out that. Now I want to talk a minute about Netflix, because Netflix somehow, John, back in the 60s and the 70s and the 50s and the 40s, they used to have an authority that would censor a comic book or a TV show. They wouldn't allow it to be showed, as famously where they would have a husband and wife bedroom. It would have to have 2 beds. There wouldn't be one bed, like they weren't having sex or something like that. So that would be that's the famous one. Today, Netflix has censored and put out these garbage things. I'm surprised Netflix hasn't censored Cobra Kai, because Cobra Kai is a message of we're not going to take the safe spaces. We're not going to try to reason with the bullies. We're going to fight the bullies. We're going to push back against the bullies. It's in saying that you can't raise a kid. You can't raise a kid in all of these leftist ideas of, oh, let's be soft and gentle. Instead, no, you can talk softly, but you carry a big stick. That's the message that came out of Cobra Kai, is we're going to fight and we're going to stand up for ourselves instead of talking it out and trying to understand the opponent. Cobra Kai came out and said, we're going to fight. I don't know how it got past the Obama network, John. I'm just stunned that it made it. I got done watching 10 episodes of it, and I'm like,
I'm glad you were productive.
Listen, overall, I recommend it, even if it wasn't this message. It was a great 10 episodes. There was dry points, there was low points, there was, can we move on now? I got all that. It's 10 episodes. You got to have that. But overall, it was a very decent show. Now I want to talk about the most unproductive 2 hours and 20 minutes of my break was watching Wonder Woman 1984. Do yourself a favor. Don't watch it. Turn it off. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your effort. It's just not worth it. Because I made this analogy to you, or this this to you before, brother, when I sat there and I watched It's a Wonderful Life, and I've watched it, I don't know, 30, 40 times in my lifetime. I can't remember the number of times I watched it. It never gets old. I don't feel it's it's an over 2 hour long movie. I don't know if you know that. You don't realize it because it's such a good movie and you enjoy it. This movie, Wonder Woman 1984, is something like, it's like 2 hours and 20 minutes long. You feel like it's 2 hours after the first half hour. You want it to end. And I had the scenes, but I'm not going to show you because, we're probably already going to get kicked off of YouTube because of their censorship, because of all the election stuff we're talking about. But I don't want to get kicked off for copyright.
Man, we forgot to talk about it as in because it was the Russians who did it, and not the Democrats again.
Right. It's too late now anyway. But it was so bad. John, in an hour and 20 minutes into the movie, Wonder Woman had gotten dressed up in her uniform twice. And there is a scene in it. I had tipped to Neurotic for showing me this. There's a scene where there's this character, one of the bad guys, who's laying on the ground in this mall scene where he was, 1980s mall scene. He's laying down. He's sitting there going like this, and they forgot to CGI the lasso. So he's just laying there wiggling like this, and there's no lasso around him. Like it was so bad. It was bad from top to bottom, from graphics. The only, of course, we have Wonder Woman, Gal Gadot. She did a great job as Wonder Woman. Nothing wrong with her performance. It would have been nice to see her perform more. Because she is the one that the movie's named after, right? So it would have been nice to have seen her in action more. But perhaps the most big cringeworthy moment, and I'll end with this, brother, is in. And by the way, spoiler alert. I guess I should have said that a long time ago.
No Russians and no spoiler alert. We should self-pick ourselves off.
Self-censor. There's this one scene where she wishes for she has Steve comes back. Steve comes back, and he's the love of her life, and played by Chris Pine. Not Chris Pine. Chris.
I hate that guy. Yeah, it's Chris Pine.
It's Chris Pine, yeah. So he comes back, and but it's a Quantum Leap style coming back. He assumes the body of an adult male who's. I'm glad it was an adult male, by the way, not a child. But because during as soon as she sees who it is and she realizes who it is, they get they're in a sack together. So she is having
marital relations.
The Wonder Woman is having sex with a strange man who is having marital relations with a man who is not her boyfriend, is actually assumed the body of a strange man. Now, John, flip it. If it was Superman, right? Say Superman, and there's Lois Lane inside the body of a woman, and he has sex with her. I'm sorry, has marital relations with her. What would be the cringe factor on that from the left? What would that have been? It would have been
your point is
boycott.
because of a rape, right? But James, if
Yeah.
it was Superman today, it wouldn't be a man that he's having
It would-
marital relationship. I mean, a woman. It
true.
would be a man, and
It
then
would be Jimmy
it would be
Olsen.
okay.
It'd be Jimmy Olsen. That'd be who they'd
And
be
then they'd be okay.
marital relations with is Jimmy Olsen.
And that's why it's so boring.
The black Jimmy Olsen, though, the black Jimmy Olsen from Supergirl.
Yeah, that's why it's so nihilistic and such a waste. Like you said, you can't come up with your own superhero. 8-Ball. I'm going to call a guy 8-Ball. You know,
it's a great name for a superhero.
Bowler. Oh no, that's Bowler. The Bowler is in from that great movie. Remember the Bowler? Baby Bowler, your Baby Bowler. Ben Stiller's movie with the knockoff, the shoveler, the knockoff superheroes.
Oh yeah.
So that was right.
Yeah.
Come up with your own.
Yeah, and it's
Mystery
so
Men.
that is such a pathetic way of doing comics. And the reason why it's important is because this is a reflection culture. The comic books are a reflection on our culture. That what the left is trying to do, they're trying to subvert our children into these ideas and these beliefs.
Propaganda.
It's all it is propaganda, and it's bad propaganda because again, it's taking stories, altering the stories to fit their narrative instead of using the good stories. And the worst part of it is, John, when the fans, people like you and me who grew up on this stuff, reject it because it's bad, because it's just bad art. It's bad work. When we reject it, they don't turn around and try to be self-reflective like a good company. No, Disney and the rest, they tell us that we're the problem, and then they double down on their stupidity and they try to make it, they make something worse. It's the reason why Star Wars is trash. It's the reason why Doctor Who is trash. It's all across the industry that is happening. And we see the first time it's rebounding back in something like Stargirl, which I didn't mention, completely.
What's Stargirl?
Stargirl is from the Justice Society of America. She's the daughter of not Stripes, the stepdaughter of Stripey, but can't remember the character's name, but she's the daughter of the Justice Society's members, and so she has this magic wand that helps her fly. It shoots stuff. That storyline was a conservative storyline where the bad guys were trying to take over the brains of everybody. Spoiler alert, by the way. They're trying to take over the brains, trying to take over everybody.
I love the spoiler alert after you said the spoiling thing.
Yeah. Force them to
post spoiler alert.
Believe in climate change. Force them to believe in climate change and a whole bunch of other leftist ideas. They built this big tower. They were going to force everyone to change, and they expected like 1/8 of the population to die because of this. They were going to go into their mind and change the way they were thinking. So they did. They were going to do this, and that's what the bad guys did, and the good guys stopped them. So it's like you can start to see there's a shift. The industry is dying, and they recognize that if they don't fix it, they're going to die too. They're going to be replaced. It's just a matter of time till somebody comes along who can do this too. I mean, we're not going to see movie theaters as prominent as we did. They're not going to die. Movie theaters are still going to exist, but they're not going to be the blockbuster moneymakers that you're going to see if you can produce it online, and you can figure out a way to get around YouTube and all the rest. You can make a lot of money if you got conservative ideas, conservative storylines, and the money to produce something. You'll see a dramatic change. That's what we need. We got to start making movies as conservatives, making shows as conservatives, and that's why, John, no matter what happens on January 20th, we need Trump TV.
Trump TV.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Trump
Yep.
TV. That's it for me, brother. That's it.
I think we've been starting this since, if I remember correctly, and we can't prove it, but right after 9/11. I think we've been doing this for 20 years. I'm calling. I'm saying that's what it was.
20 years.
Because we wanted to do something way back when, whether it was we're going to write a letter to the editor or something. But so what's our new I guess we can't use it because somebody else is using it. No mercy, no mercy.
Oh, it's
strike first,
strike hard, no mercy,
no mercy, no mercy.
Cobra Kai.
Yeah, it does. It looks like amazing. I'm a big Johnny Lawrence fan, and it was absolutely amazing from the first. The first. I only get a chance to watch a little bit, but from what I saw,
2 seasons were great, and the third season is fantastic. And it's about yourself and about rising above. So definitely a conservative message, an American message, John. It's an American message. It wasn't a leftist.
Second chance. Yeah, the whole Johnny Lawrence Cobra Kai thing is that's America, the land of second chances, right?
All right, so we are on to the convention,
the commission.
Yes, the commission.
So now
the Cruise Commission.
The Cruise Commission. Yeah, you want to do it?
I'll start off by saying I believe the Cruise Commission is unconstitutional. I know.
All right, wait. Let me explain. So one of the things Cruise came out and said that there's one way is we vote for it, one way is we vote against it, or we could do this third option, which is we create a commission of 5 senators, 5 House of Representatives, and 5 Supreme Court justices.
In the model of 1876,
right?
With
so go ahead, take us. What happened with that? Go ahead.
So in that case, it was travesty of justice in many ways. Regardless of whether Hayes won or Tilden won, the deal that was cut, and its problem with the commission is that it's going to be a backroom deal, just like in 1876. Now, like we've said before, we're big. We like Cruz. We like what he's trying to do. We like how he's leading the charge on this.
He's our guy, man. He's our man.
The commission is not the way to go, because in 1876, the deal that was cut was Hayes wins, and the Republicans give up the fixing of the South, and they give up policing the South and making sure that the South was doing their job. And it was the end of the entire reform movement that they had going on in the South. So, remember, the South was forced to pass the 13th, the 14th, and 5th Amendment, freeing the slaves, giving them equal protection, and also making sure that they had the right to vote. The males had the right to vote. And that's why we had the first congressmen were black. These first black congressmen were Republicans, and the reason was because they were from the South, and there was the U.S. Army that was stationed all throughout the South, and they were all broken down into territories, and they were occupying it, forcing these states to not only accept it, but then to not do dirty deeds like they did during the whole Jim Crow era. So by cutting this deal, this kind of commission cuts the deal to allow, in 1876, it allowed the former slaves to be abused again, and allowed Jim Crow to creep its way into it. And they started putting up poll taxes and every other way. And it was done by, just like he's pointing out, certain number of people, from the House and the Senate and the Supreme Court. It's a waste of time.
So wait, he's asking for 10 days, and then they'll have a hearing with these 15 people. But you're saying, because if I correct my memory, if I'm wrong on this though, but in that the deal was Hayes gets to be president, but the occupation of the South ends. So they stopped the occupation. That was the deal. That was the backroom deal.
That was a backroom deal that they cut.
And they still treated Hayes as illegitimate anyway. But so you're saying not to it. Now, he is a very skilled trial attorney. And what I see often, attorney, and what I see a lot of times with attorneys, I don't really do it because it's not my way of doing it, but a lot of times they do head fakes. And so I don't know if this is a head fake from him. And so it's one way, or it could just be to extend the game out to actually do the bottom line, which I keep talking about. There's been 0 evidentiary hearings. And to get a first evidentiary hearing, all they want to do is pass this along without having any of the evidence presented. No evidence has ever been presented in a court yet. That's why it's such a nonsense when they say, "Oh, there is no fraud. It's been kicked out of court again." Whoa! It's never been kicked out of court because it's never been in court. It's never been allowed in court to get the evidence under oath. So it's never been kicked out of court because it's never been in court. That's nonsense. That's a lie, a propaganda propaganda told by the left, by the people, the fraudsters who either are in on it or who are getting a benefit from it by not having the evidence put out in front of a forum where it can be tested. It can be tested and poked and proven. And so if that's his, I can see it could be a head fake just to get that. Get out to the, because you can imagine it would be, then you'd have 10 days of at least evidence being put on. Whereas I don't know if he has the, they have the votes to make it longer than, say, a couple days. And that's one way to do it. If they fight for each of the at issue states, that's 2 hours for each state. That's 12 hours. So you figure 2 days at least, but with the Senate, who knows? It could be 10 days.
Yeah, it could be 10 days. Yeah, I was going to say.
Right.
I was listening to Rick Green from, he's a constitutional attorney. He was on Epic Times, and he was pointing out that, Pence could say, I have two set of electors.
There's a thing called a constitutional attorney.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
come I'm not one?
You are. My book,
That's right.
You are. But he says that, theoretically, one of the things that hasn't been tested, but Pence could say, I have two set of electors. Let's hear the evidence. Let's hear the evidence right here in front of everybody.
There you
go. Pence could technically do that. And before he decides who he's going to take, he could say, and that way, if nothing else, because it's going to be televised, it's going to be live, they're going to have no choice but to tell the world. And there's no way the media can get out of that. They're not going to be able to hide.
That's a big thing for Cruz. I mean, that's a big thing for Cruz to get the evidence out, because the thing the president hasn't been able to do yet is to get the evidence out. So it could be, so either way, it's, a great lawyer like he is, put you, so it's a win-win for him. Okay. And it is a win-win whether it's to have it this way or the other. Now, the question of the court comes up, and there's a little bit of the backstory too, is Lynn Wood filed the Georgia lawyer filed an emergency brief to be heard by SCOTUS within 3 days for Georgia. And listen, there's no excuse for what happened in Georgia. We saw the ballots spent all day under a table that was skirted so you could not see. That means the ballots were hidden. There is no excuse ever for hidden ballots. And then when everybody's gone, right after they lie and say that there's a water main break when it's just a toilet overflowing, and they get everybody going, then they pull out those fake votes, those fake ballots, and then process 100,000 and give a win to Biden. So that happened on tape. There's tape of that, right? So I mean, but it's not tape yet because it hasn't been in a court of law. It hasn't been presented to anybody. So Linwood filed a brief to be heard, and then of course he says in it something outrageous about Roberts, seeming to say that he is part of the Epstein pedophile ring. Now he doesn't say that. If you look, remember, Linwood is a libel lawyer, and if you see the way you read it, oh, okay, look, this gives him an out. And he knows that the final backstop is a jury, and he gets to say, he would say, if they did ever get sued for libel, is he would get to argue to the judge, well, prove it's not. Why don't you come up with some of the evidence? And this is the thing with Roberts is even if he might not be in a pedophile ring, that he is his bizarre legal decisions have exposed him to. I can make a better argument for the idea that he is compromised either because of something, some impropriety from monetarily to sexual, then anybody can make that he is legally consistent in his arguments. Okay. And so he's exposed himself that way. And he follows this, Linwood follows this amazing brief. I mean, it's a good brief. And that's why, I mean, all the legal blogs are all over Linwood for being his crazy statements, and he does make crazy statements. However, I can't separate from the fact that he's a libel attorney, and he's good because his brief is really good. So I can't separate those two things out. Yes, he makes crazy things, but he could just be flinging himself like David Spear at the enemy. And so he makes this statement about Roberts trying to provoke him, or at least get a reaction. And that's what, I mean, I could see, that's a legitimate position. Now, when he says that Pence should be locked up because Pence won't do the right thing and resists Gomez's, Representative Gomez's suit, and that Pompeo then will then become the vice president. Like that. Then you go, listen, there's got to be a limit. I mean, what's next? Aliens? Come on. He's his own worst enemy in a lot of ways, but a lot of lawyers are their own worst enemies in a lot of ways. I can't separate the good brief and the fact that he's a liberal lawyer. And if you're looking from a liberal, he might know what he's doing. From that to completely discount him, which is what I know the left is going to constantly do, and even the legal blogs are constantly doing to discount it. Because, like I said, with Roberts, there is no legally consistent legal principle you can say he adheres to other than what wins for the Democrats is good. There's none. It's right. One fraud after. And before the election, he was interfering in Michigan and in Pennsylvania, and both things legally opposite reasoning for not hearing the case, saying that it's not ripe yet, saying that it's too late. So and then he does the same thing with the Texas saying it's there's no standing. That's ridiculous.
Yelling,
then he puts it off to January 22. Again, if somebody's operating like they're being blackmailed, it's Roberts. Okay. Yes. And so when Lynn Wood says this, let's go. If you're not so scared, let's have the evidence out. Again, bottom line, let's hear the evidence. Let's test the evidence. Let's test the ballots.
About evidence too. I mean, I understand it from a guy who was a Missouri State Attorney General. He said, listen, if I'm going to your house and I knock on your door and I say I'm from the state and I have a search warrant. We're searching for documents on your fraud, and it's a 90-degree weather day, and all of a sudden there's smoke coming from your chimney, and we can smell ashes and everything like that. And you haven't let us in. Then there's evidence that you're doing something you shouldn't be doing.
Consciousness of guilt. It's called consciousness of guilt.
Right. So there's all kinds of that just on a lot of fireplaces with the smoke coming out of them in a 90-degree weather. So having said that, brother, we are at an hour, so we should do our predictions for January 20th.
All right, so you're going to do yours, or you want me to do it?
I'll do my prediction. I predict that on January 20th, we are going to see Nancy Pelosi put in as a temporary president while she's also going to maintain
acting president.
As the acting president. Yes, and she's going to maintain her position as Speaker of the House. So she's going to have a foot in both branches, and she's going to try to manipulate the hell out of this to keep herself. She's going to be the first woman president, the first woman acting president. Why do I say this? Because I don't think that things are going to be solved because I know Trump. I know Trump is going to fight. God bless him. I hope he keeps on fighting. And I don't think it's a constitutional crisis. You know what I think it is? It's a crisis of our conscience. It's a crisis of our
very
country.
Good, brother. Very good. Write that down. Put that in the next book. Two little facts to add on that. Two little facts for you on that. I don't know if you know. Go ahead, finish. Go ahead.
I was going to say, if you don't recognize that there is some level of fraud involved, some level of fraud that requires investigation, if you don't recognize that, you are not working in an honest, conscious manner of protecting the American vote. You are looking at it as simply a means to be a partisan and get your guy elected. Because I'm not looking at this as getting President Trump elected, and I don't think you are either. We're looking at it to protect the American vote, because this is only one election. There's going to be one here in New Jersey this year. There's going to be one next year, the following year, and then 2 years after that. We need to fix this system now, and the deep state isn't going to fix it. Those politicians, the single party in Washington D.C., the club that you are not a part of, the club that you and I are not a part of, because we're not in it. They're just going to keep on going and keep on destroying our country. Go ahead, brother.
So a little thing happened with Nancy Pelosi. Allegedly, her second home, or one of the thousands of homes she has, was vandalized over in San Francisco, where they took blood and a boar's head and they spread the blood, or they spray painted Antifa-like signs. Now then, although only on
steal ice cream too, John?
Yeah, they did not see it. Well, that's first of all, it's not where she lives. It's probably because she has a huge gated. I think she has a huge gated house. So, but they only spread it on the driveway door, not the brick, because you can't. It's so hard to remove from the brick. So there's a question about who actually did it, right? Then she got then she was voted for Speaker of the House very tightly. So the squad stood behind her. Now there are Antifa statements on it. So it looks like, I mean, I'm just speculating here. It's more likely than not that Antifa didn't do it because of the brick thing, because that's just inconsistent. If you're really Antifa, you're going to be spraying on the brick, right? If you weren't, if you're right. So that maybe Nancy is trying to look like a victim and is sending a message to AOC. And here's the thing: we don't know what's going to happen because AOC ultimately, as I tell these people, why are you behind the Democrats in here? Here, they stole the election. The practice runs was Bernie twice. So and so why do you think that they're going to let your guy in or your way? Listen, they're all in it for themselves. They're a bunch of creeps.
Uniparty, John.
They're the Uniparty.
I don't think AOC's part of that party. I don't think she's in the club
and
either.
I don't think she is yet. But so my prediction is that God wins because God always wins. And I don't think he's done with the United States of America yet. And listen, their God, the devil, Satan, he's a born loser. So they can back their loser candidates and their loser side, Barack Obama, you bum, and all your little henchmen, right? But since we have paid $2,000 for our AI, I will consult the AI for man's prediction on the election, on what's going to happen in 2020. And it says, it says, looking good. Looking good.
The AI has spoken.
Looking good. Feeling good, Lewis. So feeling good, Lewis. Remember from Trading Places, right?
Ladies and gentlemen, if please make sure that you like and subscribe to our channel. You're probably not going to be able to see this one on YouTube because I'm sure they're going to censor us. But God bless you, and make sure if you do get a chance to check out our book, the Take Back the Star campaign. Keywords are, Republican and also Baldini. So make sure you look for our information. God bless you and have a great night.
We want to remind the audience to please not talk out loud. Please do not applaud. You're just wasting time.
Aye, aye. Admiral Butthead.
So don't mess with me.
I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN.
I pray for the president all the time.
Ugh, back to the lock with you, Nessie.
I've now been in 57 states.
He's what we designate as the